Okay, so this is chapter 9, and I'm going to do this probably in two parts. Chapter 9 and chapter 9 reinforcements will be one, and then your unit 4 test for chapters 7 through 9, I'll do that separately. These will both be posted in Blackboard under your lesson for next week. Or actually, by the time you pull this up, it'll be this week. Okay, so chapter 9 is talking about conjunctions, and a lot of times people refer to conjunctions as fanboys. Fanboys, and I think I've actually gone over this before. F is for or, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Fanboys. So that's your coordinating conjunctions. And the thing about coordinating conjunctions is that they are used to combine two complete sentences. Okay? If you look at the bottom of page 213, two complete sentences are the same as two independent clauses. Okay? So, the very bottom of page 213, the two sentences at the bottom. The first one there, we can handle our payroll processing internally, or we can outsource it to a reputable firm. So, if you take out the or, you've got two sentences, a subject and a verb in both of them. Okay? So, in this case, to combine the two sentences together, you're going to have to use the conjunction or, and you always put a comma before the conjunction. Okay? At the top of page 214, this is talking about sometimes you would have a sentence that's going to have a coordinating conjunction, but you don't use a comma because it's 13 words or less. So, Virginia received a text message and she responded immediately. So, in this sentence, these are two independent clauses and it's joined by and. It doesn't have a comma because it's 13 words or less. So, that's very important to look at when you do your reinforcements or your Unit 4 test. Okay, it says, do not use commas when coordinating conjunctions join compound verbs, phrases, or objects. You can place your orders online and track your shipments with ease. So, there's no comma needed because and joins the compound verbs in this case. Place and track. Those are compound verbs. I don't think you'll have any of those on your test or anything. But still, you need to remember that. Okay, conjunctive adverbs. A lot of times people think of adverbs as ending in ly. And most of the time your adverbs do end in ly. But not always. So if you look at this list on page 214, you can see there's a lot of adverbs in here that do not end in ly. And these are conjunctive adverbs. And they are used to join equal sentence elements. And adverbs are used to effect a transition from one thought to another. Like, however, is you're transitioning from one thing to another. They also may consist of more than one word. Like, on the other hand, you're still transitioning from one thought to another in that phrase. So, in the following compound sentences, you'll see adverbs, but not commas. You're going to have a semicolon. Okay? So, adverbs, and this is on page 214. For instance, if I have two independent clauses, one on each side of this word. I'm going to stop it here with a semicolon and put a comma here with my adverb. Okay? For a conjunction like and, I would just put a comma. Or, put the comma before the conjunction. But an adverb, you're going to have a semicolon and then a comma after it. Okay? So if you look at the examples, the very first one at the bottom of page 214, some companies oppose employee use of social media in the workplace, semicolon. However, comma, other companies find that it encourages team collaboration and knowledge sharing. So these are two independent clauses joined by a conjunctive adverb, but notice that it has the semicolon and the comma afterwards. So you're going to have to recognize what is an adverb. Okay? The top of page 215, this is also very important. No commas is used after one syllable conjunctive adverb, such as hence, thus, and then. So, then, thus, and hence. There's no comma. You would have the semicolon, but you would not have the comma. And it gives you an example there. Okay, the next thing is talking about parenthetical adverbs, and they're adverbs, but what they mean by parenthetical is that sometimes they interrupt the flow of the sentence. Okay? So where it says we believe, however, that tablet computer sales will continue to grow. So, however, in this sense, it's parenthetical. It's kind of interrupting the flow, and it's not used to combine two independent clauses. Because we believe is a sentence. You have a subject and a verb. That's all you need for a sentence. That tablet computer sales will continue to grow is not a complete thought. Okay? So, in this case, however is separated by a comma on both sides because it's interrupting the flow of the sentence. Look at the second one there. We agree that tablets are convenient. However, some people prefer laptops. So in this case, it's transitioning from one thought to another. So you can see that you have two independent clauses, one on each end between, you have the conjunctive adverb in the middle. However, remember you have the semicolon and the comma after when it's joined two independent clauses. Okay, the bottom of page 215, subordinating conjunctions. This is if you have a dependent clause and an independent clause. A dependent clause is going to start out like, because she was sick, comma, she did not come to work today. Okay? Because she was sick, and if you look, because is a subordinating conjunction. So, because she was sick, I have to get another marker. Because she was sick, comma, it's leaving you hanging. Why was she sick? What happened because she was sick? Okay, so this is what we call a dependent. It cannot stand alone. Okay, so then we have to add the independent. Because she was sick, she did not come to work today. Okay, and there's your subject verb. So you have as if, although, unless, so that. All of those will start a dependent clause. On page 216 gives you some examples. Under introductory dependent clauses in the middle of the page, it says use a comma after a dependent subordinate clause that precedes an independent clause. Even though Philo Farnsworth invented the television in 1927, comma, he was never able to personally introduce it to consumers. So even though Philo Farnsworth invented the television in 1927, still kind of leaving you hanging. It's not a complete sentence. So that is a dependent clause. So you have to separate the dependent with the independent. So a lot of times you'll see the subject and verb after the dependent clause. If you want to see where the first television image was transmitted, comma, go to the corner of Green and Sansom Streets in San Francisco. Okay? Now, the bottom of page 216 is just talking about terminal dependent clauses, and that's just where this is flipped. You have the independent clause followed by the dependent clause. She did not come to work today because she was sick. That's all that is. And in that case, it does not require a comma. So notice that in your examples there. You just reverse the sentences. The dependent clause comes at the end, where the independent comes at the beginning. Parenthetical clauses, again, they interrupt the flow of the sentence on page 217. If they interrupt the flow of the sentence, it's separated by commas. Look at the example. The motion, unless you want further discussion, will be tabled until our next meeting. So unless you want further discussion, it's separated by commas. It interrupts the flow of the sentence. So look at it like this. You could take that out and say the motion will be tabled until our next meeting. So you can see that that in the middle needs to be separated by commas. At our next meeting, provided we have a quorum, the motion will be reconsidered. Again, same thing. You could actually take that out and the sentence would still make sense, but notice that it's actually interrupting the flow, so separate the commas on both sides. Relative clauses, this is talking about when to use who, whom, and whose, or that and which. The only thing you need to know is who is referring to a person. That is animals or things, and they're essential. And which is also animals and things, but they're not essential. Okay? So make sure you read through that very well. So let's look at the first example. Any citizen who wants to vote in November must register by October. So who is representing citizen? A citizen is a person, so we use who. Okay? Therefore, no comma should separate the clause from its antecedent, and that's what citizen is an antecedent to who. Students whose GPAs are above 3.0 qualify for the scholarship. So in this case, whose represents students. No comma. The third one, a company that values its employees is likely to succeed. So in this case, company is a thing. It's not an animal and it's not a person. Company is representing a whole, a thing. So we're going to use the word that, not who or which. Non-essential clauses is information that the reader does not need to know. And in that case, you use the word which, W-H-I-C-H, for non-essential clauses. And you can read the examples there. On page 218, this really sums up the punctuation review of how to use your commas and your conjunctions and things. The first one there is your independent clause, comma, conjunction, plus your other independent clause on the other end. Okay? So you've got your sentence, comma, conjunction, sentence. The next one is your independent clause, semicolon, conjunctive adverb, and your independent clause, but you have a comma after it. Unless it's thus, then, the one-syllable words. The third one there is talking about dependent clauses are separated with a comma by the independent clause. And the last one there is a terminal digit, so independent clause plus a dependent clause, and there's no comma. So you can review that. That's a really good review for you there. Page 219, the only thing you really need to know is the simple, compound, and complex for your reinforcements or your test. A simple sentence is one independent clause by itself, just a complete sentence. A compound is two independent clauses, and a lot of times it's going to be joined by a conjunction, comma conjunction. So, Layla found her own dessert business, comma, and she specialized in molded containers of French chocolate. So that's two independent clauses joined by a comma and a conjunction. The complex sentence is one you also need to know. One independent clause and one dependent clause. So that could be either dependent, independent, or reversed. That's what a complex sentence is. So that's really all you need to know about Chapter 9. I'm going to stop here so that I don't make the videos too long, and I'll come back and I'll go over the reinforcements for Chapter 9, and then I'll do the last video for your Unit 4 test. Okay? If you have any questions, just send me an email.